So I'll start with a few questions. I'll start with a question for Cyril. You for quite a period of time lived and worked outside Switzerland, even though you were born in Zurich. I know you studied in Beijing and in Berlin and made work there. Was this the first film you made upon your return to Switzerland?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? You know what that was like, and also why choose this subject matter in this film for your first Swiss film?
Yeah. I mean, that was almost like a reason to make the movie, was that I would go back, and yeah, and then this idea with this main storyline was almost like an excuse to make this movie, but that because we just needed something that led through the film and sort of show certain places in the city that we were interested in, and like maybe a certain kind of language. So yeah.
And was this central idea, was this based on a true story in any way? Was this an actual scam, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, in Switzerland this happens a lot.
Okay.
It's like it's in the newspaper like every week, I guess. And I think like only in Zurich there were like 6 or 7 million francs, like dollars as well, disappearing in 1 year, last year. So this is yeah.
So was there a research process involved, since you were dealing with like sort of an actual situations?
Yes, I went to call centers, of course. I also worked in a call center when I was like 18, so I went back to that, and I've met some police.
What were you selling?
I was a phone company, yeah, called Sunrise, but which I would have loved to have in the movie, but that wasn't okay. But yes, and with policemen, we went to the Zurich City Police. They really don't like the movie now, but
I wonder why.
They let us do research. Yeah, we've met with these with the guys who go after these yeah, frauds, but they never get to catch them. So yeah, so this movie is like not, I mean, they catch them like once every 2 years or something, because it's really hard to track them down. So we sort of told the impossible, yeah, for them.
I'm glad that Silvan is here, and the film has a very distinct look, and I wonder if you can talk about the choices that you made. I mean, the palette of the film is very striking in terms of the lighting and the palette, and also the compositions. They're quite framing is very, in some cases, like exaggerated and deliberate. And I'm just wondering if you can both talk about conceptualizing the cinematography of the film.
Yeah, it was important to us to find these spots or these images in advance, so these people can meet and exchange themselves with each other and talk together, and also to take into account this kind of architecture and different devices that they are in touch in everyday life. So that was kind of, the process was also like production related, that we wanted to, we shot all we shot everything in the public places without any big crew, like we were a very small crew. So it was important to find these spots and to organize also the shooting.
Yeah, in advance.
In advance,
yeah.
Yeah.
So we drove around Zurich for a long time, just to find these shots that we already knew when we went shooting there. That was set, and then we just put the people.
There's a sort of recurring compositional choice in the film in terms of how just human figures are placed in the frame, often sort of dwarfed by the landscape, often cut off. And can you talk about? It's very striking because it happens, throughout.
I think that it had to do that we wanted these like graphic backgrounds, and the reason that they're always cut there is because there's, I don't know, it's like, I think when you show like the sidewalk, it always becomes like more complex and like more, I don't know, there's too much information in the image. But sometimes like with the uniformed cops, that scene, they all came because we just organized uniforms but not shoes, so they all came in their sneakers. And and that looked strange, of course, because they didn't have the black boots, so we just, yeah.
I guess I want to come back to the writing process for you. It's a pretty unusual script, and that it consists of the dialogue is this is like very dry, and consists of a lot of like information, numbers, passwords, and codes, and like was that. I'm just curious about the process of putting a screenplay together that was like that consisted so much of that kind of language. And obviously language is something that you were trying to explore, I assume, with this film.
I mean, some scenes, they really exist. So they're like reenactments of scenes, like in the bank. Like that happens a lot, that old people go to the bank and want big amounts of money. And so that scene, for example, the guy who is the actor, he's a non-professional guy, but he's an old friend of mine, and he really worked in a bank for a long time, so he just sort of reenacted the scene with this old woman. And in that scene there are numbers, for example. So we wanted to have like real situations that already have like these number exchanges or code exchanges, and then the others, so some other scenes were just like, I just told him to say the passwords, and I don't know. Yeah, so it was a mix of like these reenacted scenes, and of course, like the when they talk about the films which they have forgotten, that was quite scripted. But the script was, it existed, but sometimes I wrote it in the morning, or like, it was not an absolute thing that you would give to everyone, and then you read it, and then you make the movie. It was more, organic piece of paper.
I was going to ask about that. I think the film begins and ends with descriptions of films that people don't remember, and then there's also like other things that people don't remember, like songs, and which is obviously becomes funny as it repeats. But where did that come from?
Well, it just happened a lot. It happened a lot to me myself, that I forget movies, or like I hear it in conversations, and it just struck me as, I didn't think so much about it. It just struck me as an interesting moment. It's like it reminded me a bit of like ghost stories, when you start to tell when people start to tell ghost stories, and everyone has one. And I feel like when that happens, it's like the receptors go up and everyone becomes more receptive. And that's similar, I think, when someone forgets about a movie. Like everyone can imagination is more possible. Right. Maybe, yeah.
And this decision to have the prologue scene, which is essentially describing the film, although we're not aware of that at that time, was that always in the script at the beginning? The idea that the film would begin with a description of what follows?
Yes, I think that was quite important, because I think that story is not so important for the movie, but so because it's taken away in the beginning, I think it's easier to just sort of go with the movie and just look at the other things which are happening. So yeah, that was important.
Can you tell us a bit more about the title and its significance? It's a little bit, in English at least, it's a little bit enigmatic, but I think there's a significance in Swiss context.
Yeah, it's like a folk song in Switzerland that like everyone knows. Every child knows this song, and it's about. The song is like a play with words. It says like, those who are fine would be better if those who are less fine would be better, but that's not possible without with the ones who are less well off being, so it goes. It's about distribution of wealth, and that it's really that it's in the end very hard to share.
So thematically, that was an important thing for you, this question?
Yeah, we just thought it's nice to have like a song title for people so it starts like with music in your head when you read the title of a movie. And then we didn't have so much time to find an English title because we handed it in to Locarno and we had to finish it really quickly. So we just thought, okay, let's. But the translation is like it would be. I mean, it would be maybe more correct to call it like those who are well off. But that's how it is now. I mean, yeah.
I'm just going to ask one more, and then we'll open it up to the audience. I was hoping. Actually, you know what? Let's open it up to the audience. I don't want to. Let's do that right now, and then I might jump in with something else. But do we have microphones? Yep, I see the hands.
Hi, nice job. I noticed that you were omitting close-ups at times, not, keeping the emotion understated at times. I was wondering how you chose those close-ups and why you had omitted them at times.
What does omit mean?
Take out, yeah.
Not include.
Not use.
To leave out the close-ups? Or
Yeah, it occurred to me as though you purposely left out some close-ups, and I was, curious why you did that.
Yeah.
I guess why didn't you use close-ups?
Yeah. I mean, we basically worked with the wide shots. That's what we prepared, and then we just, we did the close-ups, but they were more like improvised maybe. So in the editing, we sometimes would take them, but they were not that important, I think.
Yeah, like for example, at the end when the girl got caught by the police officers.
Yeah.
And you didn't show her reaction.
Yeah. Actually, that was because we shot it so late in the evening. It got dark, and we just didn't have time. I mean, yeah. And then on the night, and I mean, all the actors were always like, I mean, they were all friends, so we didn't pay anyone and stuff, so we couldn't. I mean, they had some free time that day, the three of them, and to have them again with the whole crew, it was too much. So. And I sort of like it with that scene, that it's like that. I think sometimes when you work in that way, it's or that's also what we were counting on, is that there is also a logic or something that you cannot control, and that that there's something which you cannot control, and that thing has its own logic, and that scene now looks like that because we just got there at that time, and it wasn't possible to make close-ups, and also we were that far away. So it's how it is.
Were all your actors non-professional?
So I mean, all of them are friends. Only the old woman in the bank, she's an actress, and some of the friends are also actors more by coincidence. But most of them or like they're sometimes artists or whatever, but not professional actors.
No policemen in the film? No actual policemen, right?
No.
That's, yeah. Any more questions?
So you just said the title actually is a song from a folk song, but you don't really like using too much music or no music in your film. Is like an intention to do that, or
to have no music?
Yeah.
I never really used music in my movies, and I really would love to have music, but it just doesn't. When I put it on or when I try to start with music, for me it doesn't work somehow. But I hope I will have music.
Cool.
Maybe in the next movie.
I'm a composer, so yeah.
She'll give you her card later.
And also, like, there are some awkward moments, like especially between the policeman's conversation. Is that what is the reason for doing that? And I really like that, but I want to know the reason.
Sorry, what moments? Like awkward?
Like the conversation between the policemen.
Yeah.
Like every time when they have some conversations, it's quite like awkward for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we just gave them subjects like, or for example, the two policemen, the civil police, the non-uniformed ones in the car. Yeah, one of them, we shared a studio in Zurich, and I just heard him one day talking to a telephone company about his bills. And I thought it was funny to hear my friend talking in such a way. So I think we just gave them subjects that everyone can talk about, because we do it all the time. I mean, I guess everywhere you call your bank, or you talk with someone about the internet on your phone. So it's something we can all talk about, and we just said them, yeah, talk about it. So. Yeah.
But in writing the film, were you interested in sort of like exploring how, like, sort of alien and absurd a lot of this language? Because I'm thinking, if you watch this film like 20 years ago, it would seem like science fiction, right? Because
well, the thing is, I mean, when people watch the movie, they sometimes write to me and they say that they now hear these conversations everywhere since they watch the movie, like in trains or in cafes. You suddenly hear people talking about gigabytes for like half an hour. So I think it's quite a real language. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hands, yeah, quite a few hands up there. Yeah.
Hi, I have two questions. The first one is, I noticed that you used a lot of emphasis on numbers and codes and letters. It was almost like if you wanted to convey the message that it was a very automated, robotized society almost, or very, artificial almost in a way. And then the other feeling I got is that you wanted to maybe emphasize also that society was automated in the sense that these elderly people didn't have anybody. They had no contact with their family, and that they were lonely and more vulnerable to these type of scams. I mean, I don't know, it just seemed to me that that was the core message of the film, but the feeling you wanted to give out with the film. Am I right?
Well, I mean, there are so many things I think you can, which could be seen present in the movie, but the thing with the family, I mean, I didn't think about it so much, but with this scam, this is a part of the story, of course, that you have in a wealthy country, in such an incredibly wealthy country like Switzerland, the country can afford to put old people away, and pay so many people who take care of these old people, and not the families. Like most of the elderly people in Switzerland, like my grandmother, for example, she took care of her own grandmother. Like the old people used to die within the family, and now that's not happening anymore. So that's just something which exists, of course, and I think it has also. I mean, concerning like language, of course, you also don't talk to old people anymore, I guess. But I mean, that's just how it is, I think. I wouldn't like criticize it, but when we showed the film in Switzerland in a cinema, an old man came to me and he said something beautiful. I think he said that what he thinks is that because this scam happens all the time, it happens like every day. So he said to me, he thinks that the old people, they are somehow aware that they are being tricked subconsciously, but they're willing to pay 50,000 francs in order to get the feeling to be needed and to be part of something. So it's worse to them, this short moment of feeling like, hey, I'm needed, someone needs me, which is not happening at all normally. So it's one way to see it. It's like, and then you just you distribute. I mean, also elderly people in Switzerland, they have money, and younger people, it's harder now to make money in Switzerland. So it's another way to look at it is that just bank accounts go from one place to the other? I mean, in the end, is it that bad? I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I guess to follow on that a bit, I'm curious about the response of the film premiered in Locarno in Switzerland and has also had a pretty successful cinema release in Switzerland. And I'm just curious because was the film read as a critique, which it can be, and because it can also be read as pessimistic or critical, and I'm wondering what the response has been in Switzerland specifically.
In the press, yeah. Many different reactions, but I think what was quite present in many articles was that a certain astonished? Yeah, astonishment, like that this is also Switzerland, and it's shown, and yeah, people think it's really funny, I guess. Not that pessimistic, I think. Some people see it in that way, but yeah.
Let's go to the very back, if we can get the microphone there, the very last row.
Yeah, my question actually builds on some of those that have been posed already, and it concerns maybe a warning that this film issues about what is the real danger. Right, because we see all these armed guards and so on with these weapons, and they're checking parcels and they're guarding checkpoints and so on. But right under everybody's nose, this fraud is going on. And it's almost like asking the question, is the real danger, explosives or weapons or a trespasser who just shouldn't be there, or this automation of society that was mentioned, the disconnection, even the distraction, right? Because these guards and the officers are meant to be doing a very important job, but what are they doing? They're talking about films, they're talking about mobile phones and calling plans, right? So even they don't seem to be taking their jobs all that seriously. So maybe, I guess I'm just hoping that you could speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you. Going back to your question about research, I also went to the court sometimes to see other, just frauds, not only this kind of fraud, but other frauds. And I thought it was really interesting that the judge in the beginning always asks about, before he talks about the case, he asks the convicted about their past, about their family, about their future, what they want to do, and to sort of find out, I think, how much you can say criminal energy in English. Yeah, do you also say this? Energy. Yeah, that's in German. It's like in the courts. It's like how much criminal energy is in the convicted. I don't think that you say. So it's like how much it's like how much that was the life that a criminal had is a part of the responsibility that he started to be a criminal, and how much did he choose it deliberately and to just do this. So I thought that was really interesting, and in a sense I wanted to take this from a perspective of a convicted to say that the problem is not me, but my surrounding. And I think with this movie, I also sort of wanted to show just what's happening, these systems which are used for this fraud are already existing. And you can just use them and do the same exchange which is already happening, especially, let's say, in Swiss banks. No, I mean, this is, there's a lot of money in Switzerland from all over the world, which is taken from peoples and in dictatorships and so on. So that's really illegal stuff happening, actually, but it's okay in Switzerland. So yeah, I think the idea was just to show her surrounding and sort of not show her psychology, sort of the idea of her person, but show where she actually lives and what's already happening. So that's why I guess the policeman and everyone is talking about these phone companies and stuff, and not about what they're really doing. Because yeah, that's a part of that systems that make it possible for her to commit her crime. And yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Actually, you just almost answered the question I'm about to ask, and that was about the Swiss banking system. I mean, the ease with which people can go into the banks, take out money, and then you turn around and have the private banks where people are coming and, you know, when she goes to the bank, she's opening her account with, I think it was 832,000 Swiss francs. So obviously, she's doing this on a regular basis, 30,000 here and 50,000 there. And then she has the ease of just depositing that into private numbered accounts, and that's, you know, it's the flow of money. Mm. So I just wanted you to expound on that a little bit, but as I say, you already have. Yeah. I don't know if there's any more that you could add.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to add? Yeah. That's it. I mean, it's, yeah.
Take one more. Yes, here. Yep.
So I was noticing, like, most of this drama that takes place in this film is in the contrast of sort of extreme situations mixed with everyday conversation and dialogue. And I was wondering, since we have the cinematographer here, was that part of the visual language in the film? Meaning, like, when you were making this movie, were you thinking about the contrast of making the scene as intentionally undramatic, or like removing the drama in the image?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, it was the idea of finding images that invite to observe these conversations and this happening that could happen every day, or what you can see every day. And in this way, it was really not trying to put drama on it, but to invite to observe and look at it. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
We'll take a last question there.
Did you ever think about making another ending to the movie? Like, I was very curious if the money was given back to all the old people, and if she went to jail for life. Is there a, death sentence in Switzerland? I don't know. Did you ever think about, because the way it ended, I want to know more, Like, what happened to her? Did the people recover their money? And, just kind of like a more, that kind of ending where everything is resolved.
Thank you. I think it's very nice that you ask these questions, because I think that's where it can that's the direction it can take. And if you don't know these answers, I think you can start spinning your mind about that maybe. But I think the last scene we decided to start to film with like a movie which is forgotten, and the idea was to end it also with such a scene, and then I mean, we also wanted this happy ending with a bank which explodes, which we couldn't film because there was not enough money.
I'm going to just ask one more question, because I would love to hear you say a little bit about the film you're working on now, for your next film, if you don't mind just saying a little bit, because this is such an, I think, extremely contemporary film, and I was really just struck when you told me what you were working on next, which is not that.
Yeah. I mean, in this movie, also your question before, like with this no drama sense, people can be seen as quite impassive or like not doing anything. And the next movie is about the sort of the birth of anarchism in 19th century, which actually happened in Switzerland with Bakunin, a Russian guy who split up with Marx and Engels and went to Switzerland. And yeah, all his companions were Swiss, and they were watch industry workers. So yeah, it will be about this story, and I guess much more like people will have stuff to do, real stuff to do. Like be in situations where they need to act in a working way, of course, because things needed to happen, and now it's not really. I think the idea of work is absent. I mean, it's yeah.
Great. All right, we have to wrap it up. But Cyril and Silvan, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.